Hello, this is Alex. Welcome to Socialism Survival Podcast number 36. And the subject of this show is the war in Afghanistan, then and now. While now is the war in which US troops are involved, the word then refers to Soviet invasion in 1979 and subsequent decade-long occupation that ended in 1989. It is one of the subjects that I was working on for a long time, but holding for a special day like this. And today, the day I am releasing this message, is Memorial Day, when we remember and honor those who are true patriots, who laid their lives on the line to serve this country. Stay with me as I will continue after this short virtual housekeeping and community organizing. Please visit my website, socialismsurvival.com. You will find there all podcasts, blogs, forums, contacts, and different community organizing places. I am looking forward to meeting you there. Your messages are really important and encouraging to me. Yes, you even can leave me a voice message directly from my website using Google Voice feature. No matter which way you will connect me, I will appreciate your comments or questions. I am also looking for testimonies of socialism survival in other countries. If you are the one, please contact me and we may have an online interview with you recorded for the future show. If you are wondering how you can help this show, I just say spread the word. If you have a website or blog, please link from there to this show or mention it. The message is important. It is not really about me or my podcasts, but about saving this great country and its freedoms, and to help American people to stay free from socialist brainwashing and brain damaging. Yes, I share my personal stories and the stories of my friends from my former homeland, but I do it to give you a deep sense of all tragedy socialism brings to the society that embraces it. I do not want the sad pages of Soviet history that I survived to be repeated in the lives of our children and grandchildren. And I am very, very serious about this, because my children, they are natural-born American citizens, and I am fighting for them, for their survival. Afghanistan, the land of high mountains and ancient tribes. They had Buddhism as their religion since 2nd century BC until the Muslim conquest of Afghanistan in the 7th century AD. In the following centuries, it was ruled by many Khans and Emirs. The most famous of them were Mahmud of Ghazni, Genghis Khan, Timur, Babur, and others. In the 18th century, Ahmad Shah, an Afghan tribal leader, established a united state covering most of present-day Afghanistan. His dynasty, the Durrani, gave the Afghans the name Durrani that they themselves frequently use. The Durrani's reign ended in 1818, and no predominant ruler emerged until Dost Muhammad became emir in 1826. During his rule, the status of Afghanistan became an international problem as Britain and Russia contested for influence in Central Asia. Since then, either Afghanistan remains an international problem or international community remains a problem for Afghanistan, depending on which side you are. The Anglo-Russian agreement was reached in 1907, which guaranteed the independence of Afghanistan under British influence in foreign affairs. Only after invading in 1919 India, that was controlled by Britain, the Treaty of Rawalpindi was signed, which gave Afghanistan full control over its foreign relations. While being shaken by internal conflicts and struggle for power that left some Afghan kings dead, Afghanistan remained neutral in both world wars. Afghanistan was also neutral in relations with superpowers until the late 1970s, receiving aid from both United States and the Soviet Union. In 1978, Nur Muhammad Taraki came to power, who aligned the country more closely with the Soviet Union by instituting Marxist reforms and establishing pro-Soviet communist government. In September 1979, Taraki was killed, and Hafizullah Amin took power. That provoked an invasion in December 1979 by Soviet forces. Amin was executed, and the Soviet-supported Barak Obama became president. Decade-long Soviet military presence in Afghanistan has begun, as the endless flow of what in Russian is called load 200, dead bodies wrapped in foil and placed in zinc coffins. Every day, transport planes called Black Tulips were flying out of Kabul with that terrible load on board. And in each coffin was somebody's husband, father, brother, or just a friend. The decision to go to the war was made by 4 members of the narrow circle of Soviet Communist Party Politburo: Yuri Andropov, Dmitry Ustinov, Andrei Gromyko, and Leonid Brezhnev. Their decision resulted in over 15,000 dead soldiers and nearly 54,000 wounded. And the losses could be greater if Mikhail Gorbachev wouldn't pull Soviet troops out of Afghanistan in 1989. Nobody knows exactly Afghan losses. The number of killed varies from 670,000 to 2 million. Please remember, Soviet army wasn't voluntary. Unlike here in America, Soviet boys were taken in army against their will and then sent to Afghanistan to fulfill what was called international debt. Tell me, what kind of debt those young boys could owe to wild, evil Mujahideens? Was it a red tulip? Did you ever hear about red tulip? Extremely painful type of execution Afghan Mujahideens subjected captive Soviet soldiers to. You want to know how it was done? Well, turn down the volume if you are scared. The captive first was pumped up with drugs and hanged up by his hands. Then his skin was cut around the body under armpits and rolled down to a waistline. After action of a drug passed, the victim went mad and died from terrible pain. Oh, don't forget, please, those Mujahideen were supported by the United States of America under Presidents Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan. I just will leave you with those names here, like that, without any justification or condemnation, just so you would have something to think about. because it blows and divides my own mind. I know on one hand, Americans were undermining socialist regime that I was against. I fought Soviet system. But on the other hand, you have to understand that those Soviet boys were just a cannon fodder thrown on the battlefield by those who wanted to spread socialism all over the world. I remember at the time of the Afghan war, I wrote anti-war poem about Soviet mother who lost her son in Afghanistan, which could get me in prison if it was discovered. I was against that senseless war as I was against spreading socialism around the world at our expense. Thanks to God, none of my close family or friends died or were tortured in Afghanistan. But some of my neighbors did come home in zinc coffins. I have some friends who survived war in Afghanistan. Their stories are chilling and would make this podcast too bloody if I decided to recount. Recently, I spoke to Soviet Army senior officer who was on the military mission in Afghanistan. This man saw and experienced so much, it was hard even to ask him questions. 21 years after the end of Afghan war, the pain is still there. When I asked him what he thinks about American soldiers being sent now to Afghanistan, all I could see on his face was a deep pity for American cannon fodder. And it looked especially sad in the context of who is running this country now. You think you have president, commander-in-chief? Forget about having commander-in-chief. All I see is commander-in-thief. His political gangsters are stealing your money, your healthcare, yours and your children's future. He who promised to bring troops home actually wants to keep your children in uniform away from home because he hates them and he is afraid of them too. He didn't send them to Afghanistan to win, the same way as Soviets didn't send their troops in Afghanistan to win. They are both socialists. No, why he would want to defeat his beloved Mujahideen, or Muslims? Otherwise, he would send there as many soldiers as his Afghan commander, General McChrystal, had requested. General knows better what is needed to win. Commander-in-thief, however, knows better how to steal your children in uniform from you and sacrifice them to a brighter Islamo-socialistic future. There is his true agenda, and he is working for it, not for you who elected him. He who cares less about being American patriot will accuse you of being unpatriotic if you'll try to keep your children away from being slaughtered. Manipulative propaganda is used to help these thieves to ride free on your sense of patriotism. I'd like you to forget for a moment all other reasons and arguments used to justify this war with no victory ticket and answer me those simple questions. Do you want your child to die defending those who shout, "Go home, we don't need you here," or to be a defender of his American homeland and its borders? Do you want young boy from southern Arizona to die in Afghan mountains while his parents are shot and his sister is raped by illegal Mexican criminal? Some of you maybe want to yell at me, "Alex, you haven't been here long enough to understand American politics. Well, think of it as my advantage. I wasn't raised under the influence of American left or right propaganda. As persecuted believer, I withstood the heavy pressure of Soviet socialist brain-damaging machine and didn't compromise my inner state of freedom and independence from corrupt human leadership. I came to America as mature, independent thinker, having solid foundation of faith and love, justice and common sense. Using your pain caused by 9/11 terrorist attacks, you've been brainwashed into believing and justifying government's wrong decisions. Soviets war in Afghanistan for 10 years. In 1 year, US troops will have their decade since launching attacks against Taliban and Al-Qaeda. Government told us we need to capture Bin Laden. Don't understand me wrong. I'm not a green pacifist. I want to see our brave men and women victorious and all axis of evil like Bin Laden dead. But it is absolutely wrong. It has no common sense to get in the war on another continent while leaving own borders unprotected. I believe that both Clinton and Bush administrations failed, first to capture Bin Laden and second to keep away terrorists by not protecting the borders and not keeping eye on who is entering this country and with what purpose. Again, American people, it should be your decision where to send your sons and daughters, not for corrupt politicians to decide. My uncorrupt, non-brainwashed decision is American border. And yes, the way Soviets guarded their border, having regular army there, is a good lesson for America to learn. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Today, on this Memorial Day, honoring all fallen heroes, is the voice of common sense. Your Socialism Survival host, Alex.